Hi, this is Carolyn. Are you ever frustrated that you can only get one print from a GelliPlate? Here's a method for getting more than one print. It's a different aesthetic for sure, but it's very accessible, easy, cheap, fun to do with kids, and you don't need a GelliPlate. You use materials that are easily accessible in your own home, super cheap, and this is very easy to do at your kitchen table or to do with kids. You'll need a baking dish with some water in it, an absorbent cloth or a sponge, a jar with an even bottom or an even lid to use as a baren for rubbing the print, some cola, oil paint, any brand will do. You'll need a brayer, and if you don't have one, you can use a bottle or a dowel, some heavy-duty foil, some wax paper, some packing tape, and a card to put your foil on to make the plate. Have available a selection of oil-based mark making tools. Oil pastels work, Sharpies work, Sharpie oil paint markers work. They come in various sizes and colors. For this purpose, color is irrelevant. You can use oil paint with a brush. And my favorite are the China markers available in dollar stores, hardware stores, and office supply stores. And you'll need some pop to gently corrode the foil. So begin by wrapping a piece of mat board or a piece of balsa board, other cardboard, with the foil. Just tape it gently at the back. Be careful not to touch the front of the foil with the oily fingertips. Gloves help but are not absolutely necessary. You can also put some tissue under your hand as you draw. All the time in the world is available to artists to draw on top of the foil. There's absolutely no rush with this. The foil can be drawn onto one day and then corroded with the Coke the next. That's perfectly fine. You see a lot of different colored marks here, but that doesn't matter. When you make the print, all the lines will show up whatever color you roll the plate. So the next step is to pour the Coke or pop, any pop will probably do, over the plate, making sure that the liquid touches all the foil. This can be done over a foil takeout plate, over a baking dish as you see here, or over the sink. You can also submerge the plate in Coke, but I don't recommend it because if we've only wrapped a board with foil and taped it at the back, we're likely to get the board wet. Next, rinse the whole plate with water, again making sure the water touches every bit of the plate. Then you'll want to place the plate on a bed of newsprint covered with wax paper or foil to prevent it from getting wet. Next, roll out some oil paint with a brayer. I usually use wax paper, but you can use a GelliPlate or a piece of plexiglass. And then squeeze a sponge over the plate so that it's wet. The paint, the oil paint from the brayer, will adhere only to those parts of the plate that are not wet. It sticks to the oil from the mark making tools. When you're satisfied with the way you've rolled the plate, move the printing plate to a clean base paper ready for printing. For student purposes, the foil plate will print beautifully on almost any kind of paper, including bond paper and manila paper. The more absorbent the paper, the more it might halo, so it's good to choose a hard bond. It will also print onto tissue paper, fabric, and canvas that doesn't need to be washed. Press the print with a baren or the back of a wooden spoon or the bottom of a jar. Prints can be easily registered or aligned by measuring out a guide on a base paper, placing the print plate on it, and then matching the print paper to the base paper. So what you see here is the first print, the very first print, off a tin foil kitchen litho plate. And without re-rolling the plate, I'm making a second print. The beauty of this kind of printmaking is that you can make repeated prints, many, many, many prints from the foil plate. Here's a demonstration of another way to press the print. Use a piece of shop towel that will glide over the paper and just press by hand. So here we see the second print from the same rolling, a little bit fainter, but very effective still. So let's just do the whole print process again one more time in real time to give a good example of how this can work. It's a slow process, there's no hurry. The oil paint on the plate will not dry. Just before you put your paper on, you can lift the plate up and drip whatever water is left on it off. Just don't dab the plate. And here we're pulling a third print, and you can see how much fainter the third print is. So that gives you a good idea of how long the print will hold the oil paint. Let's have a closer look at inking the plate up again. So at this point, even with the used plate, the first thing to do is to wet the plate completely so that all of it is covered. When I've neglected or forgotten to do this, all the foil was covered with oil paint and the plate was wrecked for good. So water at this stage is key. Then roll your inked up brayer over the plate. You can use as many passes as you want and as much ink as you want, as much oil paint it is as you want, and you can even use different colors. You can also attempt at some point, if you like, printing one plate over another in different colors. The reason we use the term ink the plate is because typically inks are used in printmaking. Oil-based etching ink can be used for this, but oil paint is much more accessible. You cannot use water-based printing ink that you would typically use for press in schools. The oil paint should require minimal cleanup. If it's rolled out on wax or a plexiglass wrapped with wax paper, that can easily be disposed of. Further, oil paint that's spread beyond the plate can be easily tidied up with a little bit of vegetable oil or baby oil. Solvents are absolutely not necessary for this process. So here we go, making another block, wrapping the wood with the foil. It's also possible to do these prints just from the tabletop, but harder to work that way with children. I'm using an oil-based paint marker here. This one happens to be red. Regardless of the color of the paint marker, the Coke will erode the foil the same way, and the color of the print will be the color you roll the plate. Here we are rinsing the plate after the Coke. Now the plate has been rinsed and the Coke has corroded the negative space of the foil, so the foil that is not protected by the oil. When you're ready to print, put your rolling surface out. As I said before, it can be a glass cutting board, it can be a GelliPlate. I use a piece of wax paper and just use a little bit of oil paint and spread it out with the roller. Then wet the plate thoroughly so that all the negative space is wet and only the oil will be inked. The oil adheres to the oil. So it is absolutely key to make sure that the negative space is wet. Then use your Baron to burnish and you should get your print. So there you have it, kitchen lithography, portable, accessible, affordable, and fun. Show me what you do.